Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Yo, what's happening, Rush Nation? We're back. It's Tuesday. I say we're back. It's just me, but then I'm never, ever alone. Murph is unfortunately on a business call to India. So I've drafted in not one, but two guests. Chris and Abram are here to talk about the Army American Football Association. Boys, welcome to 5 Yard Rush. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh, you're more than welcome. When Murph told me you guys were coming on, I thought this is a pretty interesting subject because it's something I did not know was happening at all. And I presume that's pretty similar all over the place, right? People don't consider the Army to have an American football team.
No, and essentially we, as we'll find out as we go along, we haven't right now. The association is something that's getting us to that point quite much quicker than we expected, but yeah, it's happening.
Marvellous. So how did you both get into following American football?
So mine's pretty, I say simple, I suppose it's not simple really. So I grew up north, not far from Sheffield. So I spent a lot of time going to watch Sheffield Steelers ice hockey. And that sort of got me into American sport, which I sort of followed the big three of basketball, ice hockey and football. But ice hockey was always my favourite, funny enough. And then I joined the Army when I was quite young. I sort of come away from sports quite a lot. And then that sort of led to when things got a little bit quieter in my career. I just thought I need to get into a sport. I could never ice skate, so I was never an ice hockey player. I never stood on the ice, so I couldn't be a coach either. So I don't know. I just sat down one day watching NFL. I think I was playing Madden actually, and I just thought, well, why don't I give football a go instead? And I did. And the first time I played was in Swindon, and absolutely fell in love with the sport. And I'd been having regular trips to America as well with work, and we go sort of to the West Coast, San Francisco, sort of LA area. And I got watching a couple of games there, and that was it. I've been tied into the sport since.
How about you, Chris?
So a bit like probably most of your listeners over here, played a bit of Madden, and then went off to university and got the usual university freshers treatment from the American football team in Bath University, the Bath Killer Bees. So dived in there, loved the team, got involved in it, and the social aspect of it, and well, that was the early 2000s, so still been involved ever since.
That's fantastic. I also got into the sport through Madden, so I guess the percentage of people in this country getting in through Madden must be right up near the top, right?
Yeah, it's got to be, I think, a lot of misspent childhoods on the consoles, yeah, growing up.
So did that then move on to Britball for you both after university, or how did that come about?
Yeah, for me, like I said, I wanted to get into a sport, and I just had a brainwave one day, sat playing Madden, and I went down to Swindon. The head coach at the time, Steve Bennett, was a really good head coach, and sort of, I don't know, first session, I remember coming home and saying that that's the best thing I've ever done. I absolutely loved it. And since then, I've been tied in. I mean, I'm coaching with five different teams at the moment. That's, you know what I mean, but I could easily do more. I absolutely love the sport since I started at Swindon. But yeah, that sort of led on from that.
So before we get to you, Chris, sorry, Abe, coaching 5 teams, are they close geographically? And do you coach the same for each team, or do you have a broad spectrum of coaching skills? What?
Yeah, so AAFA, I'm including AAFA in that. So obviously I'm head coach at AAFA as well, for what we're putting together. So that this is, I say, so it's not easy, but I'm not coaching in the way that I am at the other teams. So I run the youth team in Salisbury, which is sort of under 17s, full contact American football. The team that I've set up, I GM it, chairman and head coach, and I've got a great team of coaches down there now. I've just recently started, or sort of next season we'll be starting with Solent Seahawks junior team. The idea is that it's opening the doors for my youth players to go to junior and sort of have a familiar face there, but also it sort of creates that relationship between me and Mark, their head coach, and Russ Hewitt, quite big names in South Coast football. I then coach with GB under 19 as well, and then I sort of do a little bit of So we're linked. So our youth teams were linked with Bournemouth Bobcats adult team. So I sort of do a little bit there, and they return the favour, and they come coach my youth players as well. So there's a little bit of thing going on there. So Bournemouth's quite easy to manage because it's sort of on case by case. The biggest two are Salisbury, and will be Solent next year, and then GB is like a once a month commitment. And then, like I say, AAFA is a completely different ball game. But I mainly coach defence, funny enough. But with AAFA and Salisbury, I've had to convert quite a lot to offence.
Like all over the place. It's just decent coverage. How about you, Chris?
Slightly less committed than Abe on the coaching front. Yeah, so still involved with the uni team that I did 4 or 5 years playing, and then moved into kind of going back and helping with their mini camps and some of their kind of training. Moved around due to joining the army a bit, so the coaching took a bit of a pause on it, and then with bit football. So when I was at the university, we went over and played for the Bristol Aztecs as well, and the youth team, the Bath Cardinals youth team at the time. Friends in the sport, coaching, reffing, just interested spectators. So you end up getting a good network of people to go and see play or help out, and just trying to push the sport forward. In the last 15, 20 years, the sport's exploded in the UK. So it's great to see where it is now to where, I remember turning up to training in the early 2000s and hardly anybody was there, in the dark, in the rain, you had to be pretty committed to play. Whereas now you see, NFL jerseys everywhere, and people, the interest level is so much higher.
It is massive. I mean, fantasy football, just the community within fantasy football is bigger now than it was when we started the pod 3-4 years ago. So is it obvious to you guys, being in the industry, that the growth is huge, or has it gone up on a steady curve, or has it exploded upwards?
So I realised that when I was at Swindon is when I sort of started Salisbury. And I realised that there was a definite need for a team in Salisbury, because we had a lot of people travelling a long way to play for places like Swindon and Bournemouth, etc. So I set that team up, and the first season we sort of struggled with players now and again, but like this year alone we've quadrupled our players. As of a local other team like Paul have just set up a team as well, not far away from us. Solent have got a team, and the players are just going up and up. So at that level, 100%. Adult level, it is steadily going up, player-wise. But when you go down to London and watch the London games, it's something else, and you see how much how much the sport's growing, and people are getting into it more and more. And the more people I speak to, the more people I realise who not necessarily avid fans like us, but people that follow the sport still, is definitely growing.
Yeah, definitely. We've noticed it. Even just on Facebook groups and stuff, the amount of people you see, the numbers going up, whether it be just the NFL UK group or specific fantasy ones, the amount of members and stuff it's ridiculous compared to what it was. So it's good for the sport, it's good for fantasy, and I suppose it's good for you guys playing and coaching, that there's a bigger pool of players to grab from.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So, boys, who do you support then? Who's your NFL teams?
Only the best team in the league, 49ers. Reason for that is it was the first city I went to in America, and it was the first team I went to go watch live. And I used to love at the time, still love now, Colin Kaepernick as a player. And watching him, like his early days was like watching Lamar Jackson now. Really entertaining football. So yeah, it's 49ers all the way.
And I'm possibly one of the very few UK's Carolina Panthers fans. As I said, started watching the early 2000s, picked the underdog in the 2003-2004 Super Bowl, where we got beat by the Patriots, and have stayed with them ever since, through some good years, but mainly bad years. So on a rebuild now, so new coaching staff, new setup, so looking forward to the future, getting back into it. Yeah,
I've heard a lot of people say that they're destined for the number one pick come the next draft. So
no.
Wait,
although
you should.
The last time we had the number one pick worked out quite well for us with Cam. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, it worked really well.
Well, we had a decent couple of years from him. Yeah, MVP.
He was pretty good. Cam was pretty good, and seeing him turn up in New England, it's going to be. Bill Belichick obviously knows what he's doing. It's been far too long for him to people question the decision, and
I think people underestimate him as well. And to have a weapon like Cam Newton, I think could be.
If he's fit, he's top 5 QB in the league, no doubt, just because of what he brings to the game and the way New England scheme for their players. They did it for Tom Brady, and I'm not saying Tom Brady was average, but look, hey, he won 6 Super Bowls, so I am not betting against the Patriots to get back to the Super Bowl this season. If anybody
can get value from a player, it's Belichick really, and he'll find out ways of using him and keeping the defense on their toes with him. So it's a great weapon to have if he's fit. Obviously, with Cam, it's always if he's healthy or not. But if he's healthy,
I think as well that if the Patriots can scheme for him in a way that can keep him fit, and they wouldn't have signed him if he wasn't fit because they're so close to the cap limit that everything's incentive anyway with him. So it does seem cheap if you're going to go about it that way. And people have come out and said that it's the wrong way to do it, but the talent's there. And I think there's a chance that the deal's been in the pipeline for a long time and that they just wanted to make sure that it was the right thing. And then obviously they announced it on the day where they got in a bit of trouble for the, what did they do?
The Bengals
game, the Bengals game. So it was a perfect time to release it, take a bit of the shroud away, and it was great.
I'm not sure who needs to video the Bengals to get a win.
You're a bad place when you're cheating against the Bengals, aren't you?
But there's nothing to say they didn't do it against everyone and just got caught against the Bengals, which is the worst team to get caught against doing.
Yeah.
So before we get into talking about creating an army team, we've got one question that we ask all of our guests to come on, and that's, what advice would you give to our listeners who want to talk about their passion, whether it be, going into the army or playing Brit ball or whatever it be, sailing, whatever their passion is? What advice would you give to our listeners to pursue their passion?
One thing I would say definitely is, especially when you're in the military, because banter is quite a big thing. So to open up and say like you enjoy something everyone else doesn't, is open yourself up to jokes, which is obviously only light-hearted fun. But a lot of people don't want to speak about what they have passions about for that reason. So I would just say that don't worry about what anyone else thinks. If it's your passion, it's what you love, then follow it, chase it, and come out and watch it play. Do what you need to do, but don't let anyone else dictate what you do. In that sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's absolutely huge sport, and it's a global sport. You can see the money going into it. You can see the profile. It's much better now than it was 10, 20 years ago in the UK. So it's you probably is an easier access route, but there's loads of teams out there. If you want to play or coach or hit up the sideline and do stats or game management or do team administration or refereeing or whatever, there's BAFA and BAFA. Just Google everything in the UK, and all the teams will be more than happy to have anybody, no matter what size or talent or age or if you've had an injury or not. Just get a long, healthy local team and see how it goes.
Marvelous. Right, chaps. So let's get into talking about creating an army team. I, as I said before, I didn't know this was the thing or was going to be a thing or was even possible. And I don't really know much about sport in the army as a whole. So what made you want to attempt creating an American football team for the army?
So it started with me, my crazy head and the ideas I come up with to make myself even more busy. But football, obviously we know it's like I've just said, massively growing in the UK. And I heard it a million times from players that are in the military. They say, "Oh, why isn't there an army team? Why isn't there an RAF team? Why isn't there a Navy team? Whatever it is." And I've heard it a million times before. And I generally don't think I think in the same way as other people do. So I've heard this before, and this is probably why Salisbury exists. And I set up a flag team when I was at Swindon because people were saying, "Why isn't there a flag team?" I think I like to work on action rather than words sometimes. So I thought, well, why not? I ripped some documents up justifying it because I didn't know there was any processes in. So I ripped some documents up just to justify of why it fits. And one of the main things on that was the core values of the British Army mirror the values of American football. So things like discipline and selflessness and integrity. It's all ties in with the sport massively, more than any sport. I know sport generally does tie in with them sort of head-ins, but none more than American football. And obviously the teamwork and professionalism that comes along with it is, again, it's our textbook day to day. So it mirrors army life almost perfectly. And we have some amazing athletes in the military. I mean, if you go to any UK sort of Britball team, you'll find that some of their top players will be military guys because they're athletic. Like they've already got them core values that we just spoke about, the discipline, be encouraged to get stuck in, and they've got the selflessness. So they make good linemen, for example, even though we don't normally have the size. It's just them core values match perfectly with the sport and the positions and the jobs that's asked of them. So it made sense for there to be a team. And the army offers so much for sport with travel and sports tours and the amount of money we put into sport because the army realises what sport does for people, what values it carries. So it made more sense for there to be a team than not to be a team. The fact that there isn't a team now is still baffles me.
For sure. I mean, so how do you go about getting the army, or if you're in the Navy in the same situation, but you're in the army, how do you go about getting the army to recognise American football as a sport?
It's not an easy one, and there's no sort of right. This is the process. You've got to follow this. There's certain things you've got to prove, and essentially it's too much to get into on this. But in the way I've broken it down into 4 phases, the way that we're going to approach is our sort of scheme, if you like. And our phase 1 was to recruit committee, coaches, put together a system, an ethic. This essentially what we've got now, a brand, the AAFA brand, which we're constantly putting out there, and sort of a foundation for us to then build off of. The second phase then is what we were on the doorstep of before COVID, and hopefully we'll be back on the doorstep of beginning next year, is the recruiting of players. Now this is really important because to prove what we're doing, we need to have the minimum to have the players interested in doing it. Before we even think about money or anything like that, we need to have the people interested in playing. And then phase 3 would be the practice and basically the collection of evidence. And phase 4 would be providing that to the Army Sports Board, where they would turn around and say, come down, evaluate it, say yes or no, essentially. So that's my phased system that I put together, and that we spoke briefly about. But we're definitely past phase 1 and on to 2 on that sort of thing. But with talking about numbers, at the minute we've got about 9 committee, I believe, from the rank of private all the way up to brigadier, with the sort of main man on board. And player-wise, we had 200 people registered interest across the army. That's across Northern Ireland, UK, and people that are also deployed. And we've got 33 coaches, 21 of which were on a course just before coronavirus kicked in. And this was just a army specific course. So we essentially put our own, so BAFA put a course on for us, and we put all our own students towards it and created 21 coaches in one day. Now 3 of them, including myself, were sort of redoing the course, but we redid it just to do it as a one or to do it as a team. So altogether we've got 30 coaches. I think there's only a small handful, maybe 1 or 2, who aren't currently qualified. So we've already got a really strong coaching staff. That's being helped by people such as Paul Sherritt and Wilf from UK university teams.
You can tell by the numbers we've got. Interested people going out of their way to email us, and with surprise going, there's an army, there's an association set up. They're going through the process of trying to get established as a sport. So any Britball team in the country would absolutely bite your hands off if you said you had 100 plus 200 people who wanted to turn up and be players.
Yeah.
So we've got a great foundation of interest and enthusiasm. We've got people who've been in the game for 15, 20 plus years, coaches, administrators, everything. So trying to bring all of that together, it seemed like an obvious thing to do. It's just, the main question is, why hasn't he been in before, I suppose? But, we're getting there. We're taking baby steps there. It's good.
Any forward motion's good motion, right? So
exactly,
you're going in the right direction. I have two.
Games, right?
Yeah, I have two questions on this. My first one is, with the logistics, with your 200 players and coaches being spread out, how does that go about training and playing and stuff like that?
So same as any army sport, really. There'll be a centralised location. People will get a call-in notice. This is when we're established and recognised. They'll get a call-in notice. They'll come down for a week. Well, they'll be asked for a week, from morning till noon, and we'll essentially thrash them for a week, and then they go back to the units, and we'll do that on as much regular basis as we can. More so when you've got things like games and camps coming up. But yeah, essentially like that. For now, it'll be 1 day training camps in the Midlands, so it's sort of centrally located. But they all get travel put on against another thing the army do. That's great. They'll get given cars and transport to get down there.
Well, that's cool.
So so with the big numbers, because of the jobs, so everybody's in and they've all got different commitments. They might be in work or away or whatever. So you almost have to have more numbers than you would do if you were working on a very localized club, where you could guarantee everybody turning up, every Wednesday night or twice a week, or you have to have a bit more of a wider foundation of interest to kind of distill down into a proper team.
And that's the same reason as why we've got so many coaches, because we've got in positionals we've actually only probably got about 10, but the rest are assistants, and the idea is when one goes away, one of the assistants fills that gap and takes it up. So we're never down a coach.
That's awesome. I was thinking about it, and I thought if you couldn't get players from a certain position to play for a certain time, if they were on tour or away or couldn't make the trip, then you'd be. So is it? I don't know about Britball. Do you have a roster limit, or can you literally drag anyone from your pool into the game?
Day to day, no. I know there's. So for instance, if we did sort of international competitions or something like that, I know they have sort of caps on how many players you can take. If we do go to, so we'll speak about it in a moment, but if we do go to the States, for example, on like a sports tour, then again, we'll probably be capped on how many players we can take and coaches. So yes and no. We'll take as many as we get.
Yeah. But I guess if you're going on a tour, then you'll know when it is, and you can get your players sort of notice period for that if they're available, right? So rather than just a standard game on whatever day it is that Britball play on, rather than having a short time between games to drag players from wherever they be in the country or away and stuff, on a tour or playing in America, you'd have much more chance to get a team together, per se, I presume.
Yeah, exactly. And we're trying to do it so we can, rather than rely on a few superstar players who've got bags of experience, trying to get that whole, through the coaching, through good coaching, through the schemes we would have, people can, whoever's there should be able to do a job and come together for the game and for the week beforehand. So yeah.
And the scheme's written to not rely on sole talent as well. So we are using very similar offense to West Point, in the sense that we're using a triple option, sort of flexible and look on offense, and then defense is relatively standard defense, 3-4 under, and essentially it doesn't rely on somebody to be able to throw downfield really far. It doesn't rely on one star running back. It's got options to the offense, and we've got a very simple defense to install.
So, before we talk about West Point, I've got a couple of questions about, have you had any help from them if you're running a West Point system, perhaps, or have you just copied the model?
So is that a question, was it?
It will be, but before I forget my other question, having the large player pool of 200, so other Britball teams, I guess they don't have that many players to choose from. Does that strengthen your position as a team when it forms, having a larger number, or because will players that aren't in the army be allowed to play, or is it purely an army team? And does that then limit the talent that you might possibly be able to play?
It is army only. Yes, it may sort of limit, but one thing we'll always get guaranteed, it's going to be someone who's fit, who's conditioned, ready to play a sport. We're never going to get someone that's out of shape or talented but not fit. If someone comes talented, we know they're going to come with fitness as well. So we're guaranteed some stuff, but yeah, it sort of does limit it. And that's the 200 people that are interested are both, and that's regular reserve. So
Yeah.
they only have to be in reserves as well to be a part of it. But yeah, to answer the question, it does limit it a little bit, but at the same time, it gives us a lot of guarantees. But that's the way all army sport is. It's army personnel only.
So we're not going to get some absolutely huge linemen turn up because they probably wouldn't be in the army from all the physical standards or for the jobs they're in. So we're probably going to be a team a bit like West Point. Haven't got the raw size, so it's going to be done on technique and effort and coaching to get the results we want.
And I presume strength and conditioning is quite a big thing in Britball, where perhaps not the NFL or the colleges who've got dedicated weight rooms and strength and conditioning coaches. Being a member of the army, as you say, provides fitness anyway. So your guys will be able to, they've got the 60-minute motor, whereas some Britball teams, they might start running out.
Absolutely, and that'll be one of our biggest strengths is the strength conditioning, along with discipline. But we've also got an athletic development coach, who's a PTI, which is a physical training instructor in the army, and he'll have a small group of PTIs working with him. That will, on our training camps, we'll have them in the gym. I mean, we do strength conditioning day by day basis anyway in the military at the moment. So it's a big part of injury prevention is a big part of the military at the moment. So actually, again, along with sort of general fitness sort of stuff, we've got like strength conditioning, injury prevention, physio side backing us up as well.
That's good. I mean, I don't fancy playing you boys if I was on another team, because it would just be a constant grind for 60 minutes. So are you getting any help or advice from American institutions like West Point?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, so I created a bit of a link with Fresno State last time I went to America and got a visit on there on the basis of going down and seeing how they do things. So they let me into one of their closed practices. This is Fresno State Bulldogs, and they took me around their facilities, and I've been in contact with them since. So that was good. So we've sort of created a bit of a link there, but also more recently we've created a sort of, it's a start of a relationship with West Point. So we've sort of had a few communications with their chief of football staff, and we are awaiting a reply from their offensive coordinator as well to work with our guys on the offensive playbook. So we've had a few Zooms with Paul Sherritt from Loughborough University. He's been fantastic because he ran the same sort of offense with Loughborough University last season. So we've had a few with him to learn sport basically, but we're just sort of awaiting that response from their offensive coordinator, who we have heard from on email, but we're just waiting for that response of can he give us a coach for Zoom essentially to help us out in that sense. So there is a relationship starting there. They did invite us over this year to one of their coaching clinics, which we planned to go to, but unfortunately this happened. 2020 happened,
Yep.
and obviously everything's been cancelled. So we'll probably look at maybe sending a few guys out next year doing that. Potentially some support from the army, we don't know yet. We're going to look into that sort of as an avenue, but I'm sure people would pay out their own money to go do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a link. It's the relationship that's sort of budding as we speak.
That's awesome. So the long-term goal for you guys, is it to compete in BAFA or to form an army league with other countries, or both, or end up playing West Point in some sort of charity game? Or
I think we'd probably get killed if we played West Point.
Not quite that.
Yeah. So there'll be a bit of a mixture. We won't be playing any structured BAFA league. It would be, I think, too much of a burden on people's careers and getting around the country on that short time frame. But it doesn't mean we won't play BAFA teams. We'll probably be on exhibition basis, a bit like Bristol Pride do it. I don't know if you've heard of them, but a bit like they do. It'll be on sort of exhibition basis. We'll probably aim to do sports stores in both Europe against teams in Europe, maybe regional teams, and then we will also aim to hopefully go to in the future go to some places like West Point, but not to play against, but to be sort of on a coaching and a playing camp over there where our coaches can learn from their coaches and our players can learn from their coaches as well. Essentially, would be the aim. Not never to play against them. I don't see that as ever being at that level.
Yeah, that's a shame. Although it'd be some exhibition game if you could pull that off, right?
Yeah, I might be transferring if we're doing that.
So how do our listeners help? How can we get involved? How can we track AAFA's progress?
So there's a couple of sort of official groups up. So there's let me get the right tagline for you. So AAFA_chairman on Twitter is our chairman, Tom, who you can follow on Twitter, and he puts any updates on there. For those that are on Facebook, we have a AAFA Facebook group, so just search for AAFA or search for the hashtags AAFA or Brick by Brick, and we should come up on them as well. That's the sort of civilian way of keeping up with it. If you're military, we have several different ways, but if they email AAFA_official outlook.com, then they'll get a response from that, and we can sort of guide you to the right sort of avenues of keeping up to date.
And we're always recruiting, so if you want to be a regular in the army or a reservist, if you want to get down to your local careers office, or search army jobs, get in and be a reservist, come play American football in your spare time and help out. As you say, regular and reserve, so go for it.
Sounds pretty good. If I was a bit younger, I'd definitely take you up on that, but not anymore. So we are a fantasy football podcast, chaps. Let's talk some fantasy football. Chris, I know you've got something shiny in the corner of your room there that you want to show off to Rush Nation.
Knowing that the Rush Nation, we're going to be happy with fantasy, so I thought I'd bring my current fantasy trophy, back-to-back winners. There's at least a dozen people in the UK now who are horrendously shamed by that being that, because so big into fantasy and have been for back since the uni days. So that league's been going for we're going into our 11th year now. So same guys going into 11 years. So
you said you're back to back. So you're going for the
I am back. So I'm the commissioner of the league.
Oh, hang on.
It took me 9 years. So it took me 9 years to win. And it was quite the running joke that I hadn't won anything, even though it was my league, and I was working on the rules and everything. We're one in year 9 and in year 10 now. So looking for the three-peat, the hat trick. I doubt it'll happen, but we've got it here at the moment. So trying to install a rule with like the World Cup, where if you win it 3 times, you get to keep the trophy. But we'll see.
So is that a dynasty or is it a redraft league?
It's a redraft league, yeah. Slightly not the standard head-to-head league. So we've got a few, I don't know, I suppose people would call them geeky, nerdy people in the league. So we kind of do an offline, like almost like a roto league.
Okay.
So we're kind of not head-to-head, so we're all in together. Really deep league. So 10 starters, 10 bench, and no pickups. So you draft, and the big auction at the beginning of the year is key. So it's pretty niche and pretty tasty, but it's something we do keeps us out of trouble, I suppose.
Excellent. Was that your only league? How many leagues do you play in, Chris?
No, that occupies. There's lots of trades going on, and it occupies a lot of hours and time on Excel and everything like that. So, and as soon as anything goes wrong, I've got a dozen guys emailing me and texting me going, "Oh, that's not quite right," or whatever. So it takes up all my time.
It sounds pretty intense, but you got the championship, right? So sitting top of the mountain.
Just win everything else.
And how about you, Abe? Do you play?
Do you know that guy you invite along to sit at the bottom so nobody else probably gets hurt? Yeah, that's me. I've done it a couple of years, but I think I do that much with the sport that I just forget about fantasy league. So I don't change my players or anything. So like I've got guys on a bye week, can't start in. So no, I have done in the past, but I've not for the past sort of 2 years. I don't think I've really got into it. I think I might have even drafted Kaepernick on the last time I played, to be fair.
As you heard earlier, Abe's much more into the physical world rather than the fantasy world. Yeah, he's helping out everywhere. So.
That's fair enough. Well, if you ever need advice, mate, you know where we are. Now you know about 5 Yard Rush. We dabble in the fantasy a little bit. So in regards to the Army, and is there a lot of American football fans in the Army? Not necessarily wanting to get into playing, but fans of it in general, or is it
a lot more than I ever expected? alongside the 200 people that are registered to play, there's probably another 30 to 40 that I've met that just don't want anything to do with AFA because they don't want to play, they don't want to coach, but they still love the sport. So every year, one of our good friends called Dave, he organises do you know the flag bearers at Wembley and Tottenham?
Yeah.
So the military guys that get to hold the flag at the beginning, so he organises all that for the army. So I was lucky to meet him last year, and I got to go do that at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with Chicago Bears and Raiders game.
First one as well.
That was fantastic. And I was sort of on a whim because I was going to California the month after. I thought, you know what, I'm going to message 49ers just off a whim, off a cuff, see if they can do the same thing, and it came through. So I also went out on the pitch with the 49ers and did a American flag instead, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot more people in the military that are into it than I ever expected, especially the rugby players. Although there's always an ongoing joke there between the two sports, a lot of the rugby players in the army are American football fans as well.
So now you've done the flag in both Tottenham and I guess in San Francisco. Which stadium was better to run out onto the pitch for? Not necessarily.
He needs to get to Bank of America, doesn't he? He needs to get to Charlotte.
I know what you're saying. So I love Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's absolutely fantastic, and to see their football pitch underneath on the car park when we're getting the flags waving and stuff was pretty cool. And the atmosphere there was fantastic. But I don't think anything will ever beat the open stadium of the 49ers with the mountains in the background. It's absolutely fantastic stadium, and by far my favourite. But Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is something special.
Yeah, when we first walked, because I was lucky enough to get a ticket for the first two games at Tottenham, and Murph actually was in the press box for the Bucks game. It was ridiculous walking up the steps and seeing out onto the pitch and the actual arena it is, because I'm an Arsenal fan as well, so I really didn't want it to be a nice ground because it was Tottenham, but it's such a nice arena just to go into as an American football ground, and I imagine soccer or football is exactly the same. It's just a great stadium.
It must have been quite loud there for you then.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, I say I'm an Arsenal fan. I haven't really followed football for the last sort of 8 years, but I grew up as an Arsenal fan when they were good, if that helps. and then I jumped ship, but American football turned up. But what is it like? I've not had the experience, but what's it like carrying something out onto the pitch when the stadium is completely full?
It's pretty awesome. Chris, have you ever done it?
No, I didn't do it last year.
No, cool. Yes, it's pretty awesome. Like again, I think San Francisco was definitely better just because the American fans were.
Sure.
It was just, I don't know. I think it's just a bit of a better atmosphere. But yeah, it's fantastic. And I stood on the pitch, like 5 meters away from DeForest Buckner, obviously looking up. But it was amazing, honestly. And people like George Kittle there and seeing him in real life, it's unbelievable. And then being on the pitch with them when they're coming out and when the national anthem's going. And obviously, what the Americans like, they absolutely love it. So yeah, it was brilliant. But it was still amazing at Tottenham as well. How loud it was. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was good at Tottenham, and I can only imagine what it's like in America. I've not yet been to a game in America, but I can't wait. And I think there's something about walking out pitch level as opposed to being in the stands and being, like you say, so close to DeForest Buckner and George Kittle and stuff. It's just another world. I mean, we were lucky enough to attend an NFL live event in, where was it, London Bridge, and we got to meet some of the players a bit backstage, and they are just ridiculously sized human beings, and that's without pads and stuff, and they were just in jeans and a t-shirt and made me look like I was a 5-year-old. So yeah, I can only imagine that it was pretty fantastic.
Fantastic. And with the Raiders one as well, we stood when they were coming out the locker room. We stood in front of them, and we were obviously all in the zone. And I tried to lean over and shake Derek Carr's hand. I shouted his name. I was like, Derek. And as I did that, the ref was walking backwards in front of me, so I got clean taken out by this referee. Now I got to shake Derek Carr's hand. He's got embarrassed in front of everybody. He's getting knocked over by a ref. But it's still a great experience. Yeah, fantastic.
And is that something you can apply to do again? Like, can Chris apply or?
Yeah, we would have done it this year again. But unfortunately, there's no London games this year. But yeah,
another reason why people need to join the army and join the reserves. Yeah, get in.
Yeah, it's hard work. Don't get me wrong. It's like a long day, a very long day. You're there first thing in the morning. You're one of the last to leave. But it's good. It's worth it.
Definitely worth it. Oh, that sounds incredible. And hopefully, well, maybe we can get pitch side or something soon and experience a little bit similar to that. But no, I hope you both can apply in the future and get out there, because it sounds definitely something like you never forget. But guys, this has been absolutely incredible. Do you have anything else you want to say about AAFA before you leave, or anything else you want to plug, or let Rush Nation know how they can help, where they can find you on Twitter and Facebook, and just go through it once again, so everybody knows what AAFA is and what they can do.
Yeah. I mean, we've sort of told you where to find us, Twitter and Facebook. But also, if you're a civilian coach or something like that, and you want to be involved in the sense, the same as Paul Sherritt and Will Farr, helping us out and educating our coaches, or you've got any material that you think would be useful, and get in touch. Although we're military, and we're very open to support and to working with teams, and little things like getting our young coaches in with other Britball teams, getting them down to training, getting them learning would be fantastic. So yeah, if there's anyone out there that wants to get involved in that sense, then absolutely give us a message or give me a message. I'm very easy to find. Not many people called Abraham. I'm very easy to find on social media, or just find one of the 5 teams I coach for. You probably got all of me that way as well. So just get involved with, and if you want to be involved.
Great stuff. Right, let's leave with some NFL predictions. Abe, do you think the Niners can go one step further and lift the Lombardi next year?
Not just saying it because I'm a fan, but they can 100% within their skill set to get that far. We've absolutely got the talent, and we've had a really good draft and a really good off season. Teams that I think will stop us, probably Saints, maybe. The ones we're looking at that could be the biggest challenge. And obviously, you can never write off people like the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. So, yes, I think we can. But if it's not the Niners, I'm going to go with the Saints.
Nice. Probably got one of the deepest rosters in the league. The Niners is skill all over the field. So, yeah.
Really, it's the defense as well as unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely frightening. And then Chris, Panthers, number 1 pick overall next year in the draft, or do you think you can do a little better than that?
So we're in a tough division, I mean. So
you're in the best division, I think.
Completely, yeah.
Arguable.
No.
Yeah, there's
no.
depth everywhere.
There's depth
everywhere. So no, I'm pretty positive about it. I think the coaching staff we got coming in, they're all designed to build programs. We've got, although Cam was a great athlete, he had a bit of a circus around him. So that's moved on now. So I think young offense. All the picks in the draft were defense, so it's a statement of intent really. And we got some has-been QBs in the conference, so we can hopefully pick up a few wins. We can pick up a few wins and get closer to 500. Yeah, definitely not a number 1 pick though. There's a lot of bad teams in the league.
Yeah, there are, but I think if you're going to blow it up properly and get the number 1 pick, then what's the point in picking up 15? Like you don't get the best.
I'm not. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I prefer to, get to close to 500 in the first year, and then we'll go on from there.
Yeah,
upwards is the way you want to be going.
I think you've always got to play
only
for a
way
winning.
you can go.
Yeah, you've always got to play for a winning record, haven't you? And tanking's no fun for anybody. But hey, I mean, you drafted a whole load on defense last year, and if you do end up picking near number 1 or somewhere around there and getting an offensive position or 2 to join Christian McCaffrey, then hey.
And Bridgewater did all right when Breeze was down. So, I'm not too down on it, I think, yeah. I'm probably one of the only guys who aren't down on us. But, yeah, I'm not too down on us, yeah. Get back to Super Bowl in a couple of years' time. Be fine.
Good stuff. Boys, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing the story and letting everybody know about it. We appreciate your time.
Can I just have a bit of a sentimental end?
Go for it.
On a serious note. So, I just want to throw a shout out to the Swindon Storm family at the moment, because they've just sadly lost one of their players, their old quarterback and coach, Greg. Absolutely great guy. Loved working with him. So big shout out to that organisation and their family.
Good stuff. Yeah. So Abe, Chris, thank you so much for coming on, guys. It's been a blast. Hopefully, we'll see AAFA take off in the near future, and we'll see you all over the place, knocking people about with strength and conditioning, because that's the dream, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And discipline.
Brilliant.
Cheers, guys. Well, appreciate your time, and yeah, we will definitely chat soon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Good luck.
Right, Rush Nation, I do have some announcements today. Just a bit of house cleaning at the end here. Today is the last day to get one of 3 guaranteed spots into the Warrior Bowl. So find the correct post on our timeline, follow us and at the Warrior Bowl, and also retweet the post whilst replying with 2 friends. God, that was an absolute mouthful. Sorry. We will announce the winner tomorrow on Twitter, so turn those notifications on. Now, we've also got 1 spot to give away in the Stevie Rains Bowl, which is run by the boys over at the Kickers Matter podcast. This is where we, Steve unfortunately passed away recently, and the boys over at Kickers Matter, he was a big part of what they did, and he was an even bigger part of the NFL UK community, and sadly missed by everybody. And, it was way too soon. And what Jack has done setting up this bowl is absolutely fantastic. And we've been lucky enough to be given a slot to give away in this really cool thing. So the minimum requirement to get in is to follow us, which I presume as Rush Nation you are already doing, because if you're not, why not? And then to follow Kickers Matter, which is at Kickers_Matter on Twitter. Donate to Cancer Research UK, but be creative. I mean, if you knew Steve, share why this matters to you. Post a video, maybe recreating something Steve is known for, and then make a donation to cancer research as much as you can, because it is one of the biggest killers in the country. And if we can eventually beat this, then absolutely fantastic. Get creative. This league really matters to us. I know it matters to the boys at KM. It matters to the NFL UK community. So it's representing Steve, who we really liked, and everybody else did. So yeah, don't forget, you go follow us, follow the KM boys, donate to cancer research, and then let us know why you should be in the Stevie Rains Bowl. And then we've got 1 spot to give away in the Fantasy and Frames tournament. And this is going to give charity $100 of the charity of your choice, $100 if you win. So simply find the post on our timeline and follow the instructions there. There are still some spaces left in the FFCC, but this is going to be the last weekend to sign up. There is literally only a handful of spaces left. So if you're not in the FFCC and you fancy a shot at beating some of the best analysts in the business, get involved. It's a 2-week competition. So, week 1 and week 2 are head to head. And then if you lose, you're out, bosh, gone. And Jack from KM won it last year, El Champion, as he likes to be called now, blowing his own trumpet. Well done, Jack. Yeah, there is literally handful of spaces left, so go get them before they're gone. And then there's listener league news coming up next week. However, if you want to get into a league, show us your books on Twitter, take a picture of those fantasy football playbooks. If you haven't got one yet, head over to 5yardrush.co.uk, get yourself a fantasy football playbook, or Amazon if you want a paperback. The Amazon paperback is slightly more expensive, but you do get a lovely copy of the book. So if you want to read a book, get it on Amazon. If you don't, head over to 5yardrush.co.uk, get the fantasy football playbook there. We want these leagues filled as soon as possible, and I think there's only 4 spaces left. So there's only a handful in the FFCC and then 4 in the book leagues. We're going to be making some more next week. Hold tight for that information. But Rush Nation, that is a lot of talking. I'm out of breath. Normally Murph does a little bit, but unfortunately he hasn't here. Murph, I've missed you, buddy. I know the Army boys did too. It was a pleasure having them on. But Rush Nation, until next week, don't forget, as always, stay safe and keep rushing.